Hi guys, and thanks for joining me today. A couple days ago, I made my very first project on my Vevor industrial sewing machine. Before that, I was dialing in my tension and my stitch length on scrap fabric, thin leather, and thick leather. Once I got the settings to where I like them, I decided it was time to make this little genuine leather card wallet. So in today's video, I'll show you myself stitching this out, but I'm also going to show you the machine, its components, and some of its features. So maybe you have this machine and you haven't taken it out of the box, or you haven't figured it out yet. Maybe you're thinking about getting it, or maybe if you're like me, you just like watching videos on YouTube about machines. Whatever the situation is, I hope you'll stick around. In today's video, I'm going to be using this Vevor industrial sewing machine. Now this is a straight stitch machine, which means just that. It only sews straight stitches. So if you don't already have a sewing machine with other stitches, you probably wouldn't want this for your main machine. But I wanted it to be able to handle heavy-duty sewing projects, like sewing leather purses, where you might be sewing through multiple layers of leather at the same time. So let's take a look around the machine. And I currently have my machine set up in this room that's above our garage that's really just a storage room. So if you see things on the floor, that's why. The lever that lowers and raises the presser foot is right here. So you just push it down to make the foot go down and then pull it back up to make the foot come up. There's also a knee raiser under the machine that you just operate by pushing it with your leg. And this is really handy when you want to be able to use both hands on your project, such as when you're pivoting corners. Now, I believe in looking at videos on other machines that this is going to lower or raise the feed dog somewhat. I haven't played with it yet, but I believe that's what that is. Then on this front left side, you have your needle. You have all the things that you go through to thread this, and then this is your little tension knob. Now, one thing that was unique to me, something I haven't seen before, is that this needle actually threads from left to right instead of front to back. And then your bobbin is below this. But the easiest way to access your bobbin is to actually tilt your machine. I've also seen someone access it by just reaching under the table. Now this button right here is a very, very cool feature. This is a half stitch button. And when I start my project, I'm actually going to use that, so you'll see what I mean at that time. Now let's look at these things that are on the top of the machine. Everything from here to the right has to do with winding a bobbin. And notice I actually have a bobbin on there right now. A really nice thing about this machine is while you're sewing, you can actually be winding a bobbin at the same time. And so that's what I'm doing. You have a little bubble window here where you can see the oil. If you really speed this thing up, you can see that the oil's moving in there. This is just a thread cutter. So when you're done winding your bobbin, you can put your thread under there and have it cut it off. And then this is just part of the system to actually thread your needle or to get the thread through the correct thread path. And speaking about threading the machine and getting the correct thread path, for a great video on how to thread this machine and how to wind a bobbin, I followed a tutorial by J. Christopher Gear, and I'm going to go ahead and link that in the video description under this video. He also gives you just a lot of basic information about the machine. I watched his videos on this machine, and that's really what got me started. The instructions you get with this aren't great. His videos were a great help. Moving down a little bit more and a little bit to the right, here's your hand wheel. Here's your stitch length knob, and here's your back stitch lever. The on-off switch is right here. It's just a little rocker switch, so I'll go ahead and turn that on. When you turn the machine on and the screen comes on, it looks like there's something rotating. It's just the lights lighting up, making it look like that. You have the P button here, and that stands for parameters. Now, I haven't set anything away from the default settings, so I haven't messed with that at all. I'm just using what came defaulted on the machine. You have the S button, and that stands for speed. Now, I am sewing at a very, very slow speed. That's just how I sew. But let me show you how fast this will go. This will sew up to 3,700 stitches per minute, and that is very, very fast. I tried it one day on some leather, and it was very scary. In fact, when I watched a video by, I think her name is AJ's Creations, when she sewed at that fast speed to show us how fast it could go, it scared me just watching her video. So let's go ahead and turn this right back down to 200. And of course, you can stop anywhere between 3700 and 200, but I'm sticking with this slow speed. Then you press the S button again to save it. This next button determines whether when you stop stitching the needle is in the up position or the down position. I like to have mine in the down position. That way, if I'm going to pivot the fabric or anything like that, the needle's already down in it. You can tell that I have it in the down position right here, if you can see that. If I push this again, it's going to make it where it would stop in the up position. So let me go ahead and push that again. Now you can see it would stop in the up position. Let's go back to the down position. This last button, let me go ahead and push it. You see it come on there? That is a feature where if you want to have a slow start, you have that on. So if you're sewing at a really fast speed and you want it to take off gradually, you're going to have that on. Now I've played with it, and with the speed that I use of 200, it doesn't do anything. And so I've just been leaving it off, but it doesn't hurt to have it on. Now right above this side of the machine, I have my thread stand. The spool on the left is the spool that feeds the machine. The spool on the right is the one that feeds the bobbin threader. The biggest surprise that I had with this machine was how you oil it, or one of the places that you oil it. So it comes with a big container of oil, and let me show you what I'm talking about. With this machine, and it's not uncommon for industrial machines, you have this large oil pan down there. So you can probably see some oil dripping. Also, notice right here, these threads, that's the wick. So that sits in the oil, and oil wicks up through that, and it oils certain parts of your machine. I had never seen anything like this, but apparently it's not unusual on industrial machines. Since getting this Vevor industrial sewing machine, I've spent quite a bit of time getting to know it, its features, and experimenting with the tension and stitch lengths on various fabrics. But now I want to make my first actual project, and it's going to be a simple little card holder wallet. A little wallet that will hold rewards cards and things like that. Now, since this is a video on the machine and my first time to actually use it for a project, I have my project almost to the point where I'm ready to sew it, but I'll tell you what I did to get it ready. I started with this brown genuine leather. It's very soft and it has a very fleshy backside. I had made a card wallet template a long time ago, so I printed it out so that I could use it as a pattern for my project. Because of how fleshy the back side of this leather is, I used what is called Tocopro on the back of it. After coating the back of the leather with Tocopro, I used this glass slicker and really rubbed the back of the leather to smooth it out. And then I used this burnishing tool after adding Tocopro to the sides of the leather so that the sides would be smoothed out a bit. Once the Tocopro was dry, I added a snap from the snap set that I got off of Amazon. Now this double-sided tape acts like pins or clips would in a regular sewing project. It holds the leather together so that it doesn't shift while you sew it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a couple of pieces of this off to use in my project. I want to put it on the inside of the front side of my card wallet. I'm going to cut a couple of pieces of it down to the size I need, and I want the length of the pieces that I'm cutting to be the size of the front piece of my card wallet. Hopefully that makes sense. I got this tape at Tandy Leather, and you get a lot of it for really not very much money. It's 1/8 inch thick, which is perfect for my project today because I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to open this up and put the tape on the back side of that front piece of the wallet. I'll press it down and then add another piece to the other side. Now I want to pull off the paper backing off the back side of this double-sided tape. This will expose the other side of the adhesive. Now let's remove the back side of this other piece. It's not coming up quite as easily, so I'll rub it down some more, and that did the trick. Also, after the TocoPro dried, I folded the leather and made sure that the fold had a little memory so that when I had my sticky tape on here, it would be pretty easy to fold it just right. Now that I have the sides lined up the way I want them, I'll push them together really well so that the tape will stick to both the front and the back piece. It's not quite perfect, but it looks pretty good. Now I have to decide how to approach sewing this closed. Should I sew from the top down or the bottom up? I think I'll sew from the top down. I'll tuck my thread through the opening in the presser foot, and I'll sew this right side first. If I line the leather up with the right edge of the presser foot, I'll have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I want to start my stitches just above where the leathers overlap. That looks good, so I'll drop my presser foot. Okay, hold on. I need to adjust it a bit or I'll be sewing on a slant. That looks better, so let's lower this presser foot. Then I'm going to slowly turn the hand wheel on the side to bring the needle down slowly. That way, if the needle is going to puncture the leather in the wrong place, I can raise it back up. Looks good, so let's start sewing. And I'm going to let this sew off the end of the leather. Now I have my machine set that the needle is still down when I end my stitches, so I can press this half stitch button to raise it. Now let's raise the presser foot, and I like to hold the thread while I pull the leather away and then I'll trim it. The stitching on the leather looks really good, but let's check out the back. And it looks good too. Now let's sew the other side. And since I want to sew from top to bottom, I'm going to use the left side of my presser foot this time as my guide. I'll lower the needle using that hand wheel again so that the needle gets really close to the leather, but I don't want it to puncture the leather until I'm really happy with where the leather is placed. Now I know it's taking me a long time to get this just right, but with leather, once you put a hole in it, it's going to show. So I want to take my time and get the needle exactly where I want it. And I'm taking into consideration where it is above the overlapping leather, as well as whether the side of the layers lines up with the side of the presser foot. Now that I'm happy with the placement, this time I'm going to use that half stitch button to lower my needle into the leather. I'm going to press it a couple more times, and then I'll use the presser foot to sew. And I'm going to go ahead and sew off the leather again. And then because I have my machine set to end with the needle down, I'll press that half stitch button again to raise it. Now I can raise the presser foot and we're done sewing this super simple project. These stitches look really good too, but it does look like my seam allowance is just a little larger than what it was on the right. It's okay though. Okay, what is this loose thread? Oh, I just need to pull the thread from the other side to close that up. So now these stitches on the back look great too. Now how am I going to finish this off? Should I feed this loose end through to the other side and tie it off? I think I'll just trim the thread down close to the leather and then melt them with a lighter. My first little project with this machine turned out pretty nice, but let's do a reality check on the size. The card slides in easily, and I left enough width inside that I could put several cards inside and they'd still fit. I think this little card wallet turned out great. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, leave them in the comment section below. And if you're interested in seeing more on this machine, I'll be using it and posting more videos. I sewed this little genuine leather card wallet. Now it's a tiny little project. It only had 2 lines of stitches.